Welcome back, and we've made it all this well. Now we are going to talk about the different registers that QuickBooks has, and we're going to be talking about the fact that there are multiple registers, because you may just be familiar with the checking account, but you see that there are others as well, like credit card registers, loan registers, and others. So you need to know how to work with all this. So let me go ahead and get our desktop pull up, and we'll go and look at our first register, which will be the checking account. One of the easiest way to open a register is where you see right here where it's written account balances. You can just click and go right away to the register. Also, what you're going to see is on your home screen, there is an option that says check register here. So you can use that. Just know that when you use that option, you could only get to bank account register. So you could have opened your visas and all the others if that's what you're trying to do. Real quick, if you wanted to open those other, what you do is go to the chart of accounts and double click on that particular account, and in there you will see the register and every transaction related to it. One thing to notice is when you're working in the chart of accounts, any of these that have a balance right here, that will open a register for that account. When you start getting down to where the expenses are and the income, you can't open a register here. When you click, you can just run a report. So just know that. So I'm going to go over here and open the checking. A couple of things about the register. First of all, it's very self-explanatory because it looks like one that you would have on your desk and you can actually write in. You will notice that it has transactions in date order. Now you could change that. Now, for example, if you wanted to see it by the amount or the order entered, so you could sort by from down here. But date type number works best. Also, each one of these has two lines where you can put information about a transaction. If you prefer to see it in a one line format, there's a checkbook down here. You could just check and then you will see it's going to change. Now, if you see a blue line like you see here, what that means is the transactions below are post-dated. That's all it means. You do have a place for the date here for each of transaction. Then you have a place for the actual check number if there is one. You could put anything you want here. If you want, if it happens to be a debit transaction, you could put the word debit. If it is an ATM, you could put it there. It really doesn't matter. Just be consistent with your coding so that when you go to reconcile, it kind of lists them all together. The next thing you'll see is that it has a place for who are we making a check for, or if it's a deposit, it may have a name there in. So this one is a check. You'll see it has a check amount under the payment column. If it was a deposit, you'd see it around here, and of course the balance. It keeps on running the balance. If it becomes negative, it will be red. So this column with the check mark, you're going to see that when we talk about reconciling later, if there is a check mark here, that means that particular transaction has been reconciled. You don't want to check or uncheck anything in this column because it will throw off your reconciliation. So just stay away from that. So the second one down here is where you're gonna pick the accounts. So there are two things you have to have when you're putting in a transaction. You have to have an account and you have to have an amount. It doesn't matter about anything else. You could leave them blank if you want to. But if I clicked on this, you will see that you could go into any transaction. So you could always open up a transaction by double clicking, just like that. Now, going down this list, first of all, this one is a bill payment. So what that tells me is that you entered a bill and you went to the pay bill. When you go through pay bills and actually pay a bill, it automatically appears in the check register as a bill payment. What you don't want to do is enter a bill and then go to the check register and put that payment in, because there is no association. It will actually leave that bill open. So when you run reports, you will wonder why it's still showing up. So same things we talk about account receivable earlier. If you create an invoice and receive a payment this way, do not go into the check register and type it in. You want to actually go to the record deposit. At this point, it can now go to the check register. So what you'll find is that really 70 to 80% you'll save off typing in the register, because things will just dump in there for you. When you see a transaction like this where it says a CHK, that just means someone just wrote a check. Now they could have typed in here, right in here, or they could have gone right here where it says write check and filled it in that way. Either way would end up in the register. Some of this says split, and what split means is that you have multiple line items in that transaction. Here's a good example. There's a deposit right down. Now it doesn't tell you where the deposit is from, or because there is more to that transaction. If I double click there and open that transaction, you can see that there are 3. Yeah, that's why it says split. So that's just a quick overview of how the register works.